In topic 2, we're going to continue looking at some simple interest problems. So just in this top section, they want us to solve for x. So this is a little bit of a refresher for you. So what happens if you have 2 times x is equal to 14? How would we solve for x? Well, we have to do the opposite operation of what's happening between the 2 and the x. So in between here, there's a multiplication symbol. So in order to cancel out that 2, we need to do the opposite of multiply, which would be divide. So we would divide by 2 and cancel that out. But whatever we do to one side of the equal sign, we have to do to the other. So we also have to divide the 14 by 2. Therefore, we would be left with x is equal to 14 divided by 2 is 7. So again, we can do the same thing with the next one, except now we have two things multiplying the x. So what I would do is I would multiply these two things together. So I would do 3 times 4 is 12, and then I would divide both sides of the equal sign by 12, which would cancel this out, and then we would be left with x is equal to 6 divided by 12 is 0.5. In the next two examples, we have addition and subtraction on the same side of the x as well. So in this third example, we have 18x, or 18 times x, plus 2 is equal to 38. So the first thing we want to do is get rid of that plus 2, or cancel it out. So in order to do that, we would subtract 2. So that would cancel that out. And then we would have to do the same thing to this side of the equal sign. So we would be left with 18x is equal to 38 minus 2 is 36. And then we would finally divide by 18 on both sides. Sorry, it doesn't fit in here. So that would cancel this 18 out. And we would end up with 36 divided by 18, which is 2. So x is equal to 2. And then finally, on this last one, we would first get rid of that minus 3. So we'd have to do the opposite of minus 3, which would be plus 3. That would cancel that out. But whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So then we're going to be left with 1.5x equals 12 plus 3 is 15. And then we would divide by 1.5 on both sides. So that would cancel that 1.5 out, and then 15 divided by 1.5 is 10. So we would be left with x is equal to 10. So we're going to have to use this process in some of these problems below. So Sierra is completing her tax form. She earned $30.24 in simple interest from her bank. She remembered investing $1,200 with her bank for 1 year. She cannot remember the interest rate. What was the interest rate on Sierra's investment? So this time they give us the interest earned. However, we need to find out what the rate is, what R is. So again, we're going to use that formula we learned in the previous topic. I is equal to PRT. And let's fill in the blanks that we have. So this time we have the interest rate. We know the interest is $30.24. So that is the I. Now, the principal amount, she says she remembers investing $1,200 in her bank. So that would be the initial amount, or the principal. So I'll give it $1,200. The rate, she does not know. And she knows it was in her bank for 1 year. So the time, or the T, would be 1. So now our goal is to get R all by itself. So off to the side here, I'm just going to write this so it's a little easier to read. So we have 3024 is equal to 1200 R 1. So all of these things are multiplied. I'm going to use that little dot for multiplication. Sorry, there should only be one dot over there. So dot R. So the dot means multiply. So what I would do is on this side of the equal sign where the variable is, or where the letter is that we have to solve for, I would multiply all the numbers together that we can. So we have 1200 times 1. So I would multiply those two together, and that would still give us 1200. So then we would be left with 1200 R, or 1200 times R. And I'm going to have that 3024 on one side, or on the other side of the equal sign. So now we need to isolate that R. We need to get it all by itself. So right now it's multiplying the 1200. So we need to do the opposite of multiply, which would be divide. So we're going to divide both sides of the equal sign by 1200. So I'm going to show you that over here. So I'm just going to rewrite that in the fill in the blanks. I feel like the fill in the blanks can be a little bit tricky to read. They can be a little bit confusing. So I'm going to put 3024 here. So that's this one. And then equals 1200 times R. So that would be, or I guess we're writing this step right there. Then on the next one, we're going to write this entire thing. So we're going to have 3024, and we're going to divide both sides of the equal sign by 1200 because it's going to cancel out right here. And then in our calculator, we're going to do 3024 divided by 1200, and we will get 0.0252 is equal to R. So remember, whenever we're using this formula, we have to plug in the interest rate as a decimal. So if we actually wanted to figure out what the percentage is, we'll have to turn it back to a percent. So if we were to turn a percent to a decimal, we would move the decimal point over this way twice. So to convert it back, we're going to take the decimal point and we're going to move it over this way twice. Now what that's essentially doing is we're multiplying it times 100. So we're going to take the R value, which is 0.0252, and we're going to multiply it by 100. So in your calculator, do 0.0252 times 100, and you will get 2.52%. And that's the same thing as if we took that decimal place and we moved it over 2 spots right there. So the interest rate on Sierra's investment was 2.52%. In the next example, Stephen is saving to buy a used boom lift for his tree trimming business. He needs $9,800 and he has $9,475 saved. He plans to invest his savings at an annual rate of 1.59% or 1.59% per year. So either of those things mean the same thing. How long must Stephen invest to earn the additional $325 in interest he needs? So this time we are looking for the time, or in other words, we are looking for T. They never gave us the time. So again, we're going to use the same formula that we were using before. I is equal to PRT. You can see that down here. So let's see what they gave us. So I'm just going to label this I, P, R, and then T is at the end. So the rate's really easy. They gave us the rate right there. So let's just convert that to a decimal. So that would be 0.0159 for the rate. And then let's look at these other numbers we have. So they gave us 9,800, 9,475, and 325. So it says that he has $9,475 saved, but he needs $9,800. So the initial amount that he has on him is $9,475. So that's why I'm putting that as the P, the principal. $9,475, because that's the amount of money he currently has. Now the end amount that Stephen is looking for is $9,800. However, he's not looking to earn that much interest. He just needs that much money after the interest is earned. So remember that formula we did where we took we were finding the amount and we did the principal plus the interest? So in this case, the principal plus the interest has to equal this amount. So we need $325 in interest in order to get that. So our interest, or the I, is going to be equal to $325. So that one's a little bit confusing to set up, but once you have it set up, it's the exact same thing as the previous one. So what I'm going to do is we have 3 things multiplying on this side of the equal sign, and one of them is a letter. So I'm going to start by multiplying the 2 numbers together that we have. So in my calculator, I'm going to do 9,475 times 0.0159, and you should get 150.6525. And then this 325 stayed the same on the other side of the equal sign. So now we need to isolate that T. We need to get it all by itself. So we're going to do the opposite of multiply, which is divide. So we're going to divide both sides by 150.6525. and then divide this side by 150.6525. So how we would fill this in these blanks, which again are a little bit confusing, is I'm going to put 325 here, and I'm going to divide it by 150.6525, and that's going to be equal to t, because these two will cancel each other out. So if we do that in our calculator, 325 divided by 150.6525, you will get that t is equal to 2.157 years. In part B, it's asking for the time in years and days. So what we're going to do is we're going to take how many years we have, and we're going to multiply it by the amount of days in a year. So we're going to do 2.157 years, and we're going to times it by 365 days. So that will give us 787.408 days, or if we round that, it would be 788 days. Now in this next part, they're converting it to how many years and how many days. So if we have 788 days and we subtract 2 years from it, so there's 365 days in each year, we would be left with 58 days. Therefore, 788 days is equal to 2 years and 58 days. So I'm just going to fill that in these blanks. And I hope that makes sense, because we subtracted a full year from those days here. So that's 1 year. And then again, we did that here. So that would be the second year. And then we would be left with only 58 days, so we can't get another year from that. So that's how we get 2 years and 58 days. Now the booklet gives us a second way we could solve this, but I'll post the answer key, so if you want to see the second way, feel free. The only real difference with it, you'll get the same answer, but the only difference is that instead of dividing the numbers after you plug them in, like we did on this step, or this next one here, they divided the formula before plugging in the letters. So they're like, okay, we know we need to isolate t and get it all by itself. So before we do anything, we're going to divide this side by PR, because that's going to cancel this out. So whatever we do to one side, we have to do to the other. So then we would be left with I divided by PR is equal to t. And then you would plug in the same numbers that we had before. So I would go up here, so that would be 325. And then PR, so that's P times R, or the initial amount, the principal, times the rate. So the initial amount was 9,475, and we would times it by the rate, which was 0.0159. So if you were to continue solving this, multiply those numbers in the denominator first. So the numerator would stay the same, 325, and then you would multiply 9,475 times 0.0159, and you would get 150.6525. So all of a sudden at this step, we are in the exact same spot as we were in this step up here. So it's a slightly different method of going about things, but you will get the exact same answer, which would be 2.157 years.